from my experience, when I was inexperienced at it, my very first run, I went and did a half marathon. No, I was able to run, but from 10 minutes in at a 5 minute kilometre pace, my heart was in zone 5.
So what's, just in terms of kind of the percentage of your max heart rate, what's zone 4 versus
so my
zone
heart
5?
rate max, I think around 210 thereabouts, but it's I should be in the 190 is where like I'm in the zone 5. Right. So above 176. My heart rate for an hour and a half of my half marathon I just ran in Phoenix Park, I was in
maintaining zone.
Yeah. And that's when I start to get to know.
It's supposed to be 220 minus your age, isn't it?
Yeah, so
you're only 10,
Huh?
You're only 10 or
220, but I think
get that abacus back out. Hey guys, Sean here for episode 7 of the Any Given Runday podcast. I am here once again with Eric, Conor and Aaron, and we are going to go straight into today's episode.
No kissing straight in.
No kissing.
I was at a wedding not again, so it was a phrase, I'm sorry.
How was the wedding? Was it a good wedding?
No.
Did you miss out on your long run this weekend, the wedding?
I did, absolutely, yes.
Absolutely no run this weekend?
No running,
No kissing.
No running.
No.
Oh, you did a lot. I say you did a fair bit of chasing this weekend, though, alright.
Wearing the garments like 6 kilometres running.
I've often ran a marathon for a party.
Did you have that garment on and dance for, yeah?
I did. The step count was high. Anyway, sorry.
Speaking of that cross training, we're going to talk about a little bit of, is that segue? A little bit of cross training we're going to talk about straight into. Conor, you first 2 weeks went well, the running, I'm not saying the next 2 weeks didn't, but you started your hurling training. How has that gone for you?
Yeah, it's been great. So yeah, I suppose kind of following the first podcast. So I had 2 weeks of just pure running and general gym work, and that was fine. And then we implemented we went back training then, and have been training for the last 3 weeks. So overall it's been good. I mean, on the running side, I've hit a couple of personal bests in the 5 and 10k pace, which is good. Always nice to see. And then it's just good to be back. Just good to be back hurling, Nice to be back with the lads and just kind of getting back to that structure.
For those that didn't see it on our at Any Given Runday official Instagram, talk a little bit about that post you put up 2 weeks ago. You had your Garmin on you for hurling training. One, that's insane because you guys are barbarians with sticks, we've talked about before. But two, you did 7k running throughout that training session. What was that post about?
Yeah, so I suppose, look, the idea of my journey and where I'm coming from is that I want to see if it's possible to kind of to be able to hit peak performance from an endurance event standpoint, while I suppose being right in the midst of beginning our season, really, because obviously April when we run the Madrid Marathon, that's very early in our hurling season. We'll just be kind of starting the league at that point in time. So that's really the challenging point. So the idea of my training is that in lieu of kind of runs, that I'll use my hurling sessions as as those kind of shorter training runs. So obviously to do that, have to be able to monitor and track the sessions. So what I've been doing is I'm not wearing my Garmin because I'm not that stupid, but I have an old Fitbit that does the job perfectly. So it tracks basically, it'll track heart rate and distance covered.
Fitbit with, risk the Fitbit with Garmin. No.
Great plug there.
It's not tagged.
In fairness, if you saw this Fitbit now, like, it's absolutely massive. I think they'll probably do more damage to a hurl. But look, it does the job perfectly. So what I've been doing is kind of tracking the trainings, the hurling trainings, and look, obviously what I'm finding is that obviously I'm not covering great distances. I mean, in terms of the distance covered, it's been anywhere from kind of about 4 to 7 kilometers covered.
Over what period of time?
Over anywhere from an hour and 10 to an hour and 30.
Okay,
and that's indicative of hurling. I mean, obviously most of the work we do in the middle of a match, it's short, it's sharp. So even, for example, we could be spending 10 minutes or 15 minutes doing some striking drills. I might stay in kind of a short area. So in terms of the distance covered, it wouldn't be great, but at the same time I'm exerting a lot of energy. And I suppose when I think about that, distance versus exertion, the best example I can give you is in a match. I'm talking about playing in half back or wing back. You might go up and field a high ball. Okay, so take the ball and you'll come down to the ground. You're immediately tackled. Okay, you're trying to break a tackle, solo, make a run, make a tackle, and then strike the ball. So the distance you actually cover might only be 5, 6, 7 meters. but the actual energy you exert to do that is massive.
Yeah.
So that's what's kind of interesting, you know, looking at the stats and seeing, okay, well, you know, although I may have only covered, you know, 4 or 5 kilometers, my heart rate is, you know, stays quite consistently high. You know, I'm obviously, you know, working very hard, even though the distance, you know, covered isn't great. So I suppose, and I'm not really focusing on things from a heart rate perspective, but not dissimilar to what Eric's kind of talked about, in that, you know, going for longer distance at a shorter or a lower heart rate. I'm kind of working for a higher heart rate for, you know, for lower distances. You know, and so to complement that, then what I'm trying to do is, you know, when I'm getting out for my run, and, you know, and it really is once a week, that I'm kind of trying to drop the pace and run a little bit slower. It hasn't always happened. A couple of angry runs have gone in there after work, and so it just gets ahead of you. But, you know, that I'm trying to basically, you know, drop my pace a little bit, so, you know, I'm getting used to running that marathon distance or marathon pace, but at a slightly longer distance than I would in a hurling session.
But you're also getting a couple of gym sessions in, and like, if anyone was looking at the video or on the YouTube, or the 4 of us here, it's like, well, one of them's doing strength training marathons and build more so in the gym, and I hate to admit this, but I'm looking like a skinny guy in a long Jordan top right now with small arms, whereas this lad Conor Nolan over here has the tight t-shirt and the arms sticking out. How's the gym sessions going with the hurling and the run? You said we were running once a week.
Well,
so have you only done 5-6 runs as well?
So yeah, to break it down, what I've done over the last couple of weeks is, now I haven't tracked my gym sessions, but in terms of actual running, I've done six long runs that, when I say long, I mean the distances vary from 5 to 10 kilometers. We've done 5 pitch sessions as well, and again the distance cover will be 5 to 7 or 4 to 7 kilometers. And then at the moment I'm doing 1 gym session with the hurlers and then 2 gym sessions myself.
I want to talk about the gym sessions in a second, but I want Eric to break out that abacus, because we are 6 weeks in. 6 weeks in, and you've done one run a week. You've done 5-6 runs.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I wish I had the podcast from last week. We're the same level as Aaron here. Was Conor not laughing at Aaron for only doing 5-6 runs? Only 5-6. He done the exact same.
Get out my code book here.
Yeah.
Aaron, your uses that run.
So obviously you've done more runs to hurling, or only taking the mick there on that one, but you're running once a week.
Yeah.
You're doing your gym sessions. In the gym, are you doing cardio as well as weights, or is it just weights with the hurlers, or what's going on?
Yeah, so gym sessions for me at the moment, it's exclusively a push session and a pull session. So I suppose for anyone that's not familiar with that, a push session is basically it's chest, shoulders and triceps, and I'll usually do some leg work as well. So basically it's any form of exercises that you're basically the hinge or your body part is pushing against the weight, and then, you know, a pull session whereby it's your back, your biceps, and some core work there as well. So again, you know, the exercises are pulling the weights towards you. The hurling gym session, it's a circuit training in a place called the Performance Clinic out in Celbridge, and we've been there once last week, and we're going in tomorrow night, and it's the closest I've ever come to getting sick at a session.
That wedding was fairly good.
It's been a week of weak stomachs, hasn't it? But it's essentially it's endurance circuits. So a lot of what we do is body weight focused or light weights, but it's incredibly high reps, very high intensity. So it's basically HIIT session.
I just have one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said the season is going to be coming pretty much to a start as we hit the marathon training.
Yeah.
Have you noticed now, so obviously it's like the pre-season type training, which is quite run intensive.
Yeah.
You're not doing, we're winding you up about the 1 run a week. As your training progresses into the more skill level, match-based level, will you find yourself doing more runs as we get towards the marathon? Or is that how you kind of envisage your training going for the next 5 weeks?
That's definitely how I envisage it. I think that I'm actually a little bit maybe surprised that I'm certainly more sore than I thought it would be. Like what I'm finding, because I suppose that's the time of the year, you know, obviously the ground is very, very heavy. Our sessions are, you know, which are pitch based, are focused on high intensity, and then there's an endurance run, or it's basically they're mass runs. So it's a lot of kind of it's covering a longer distance than, you know, we would do usually, with a very short time period for recovery. So what I'm finding is that oftentimes I'll come off the pitch on a Thursday, you know, Friday my energy levels will be quite low, and I suppose coupling that then with my runs on the road, what I found, my calves, my hamstrings, my hip flexors have all been quite sore. So in my head, when we started this journey, I thought, okay, well, what I would probably do is, we would have, likely as not, maybe one very heavy session with the hurling, two maybe lighter. I'd be able to incorporate a much longer run, into my week. Then that probably hasn't been the case. Again, the hope is that, look, we're 3 weeks in, still, I hope the rest of the lads are the same as well. We're all still kind of acclimatising to the sessions. The hope is that, in the coming weeks, that I suppose as we get used to that, they'll be able to implement longer runs as opposed to more runs, because I think, in all honesty, I never really thought that I'd be running 3-4 times a week, because I knew with the hurling and trying to fit recovery and a gym session into that as well, that wasn't going to be likely. Otherwise I'd be out on the road every night of the week.
Yeah, I mean, your hurling coach, to their credit, he's not thinking about what the lads on at their own training in. He's probably thinking that his 3 sessions, this could be the only time a week that the lads are training, so I'm going to base everything off that. So let's go through an endurance circuit, which we're going to have to talk about sets and reps in a second, out of curiosity. But that kind of thing on a Thursday, that was Thursday, wasn't it?
Yeah. By
the time Sunday comes around, they're just about recovered for a hard training session, and then on Tuesday's your other session? Monday. So they'll probably, I don't know if they hold back a little bit, so you do a session on Monday, or it's pre-season, good luck to you, there's no holding back.
So the schedule is Monday's our gym session, and then we have a pitch session on a Thursday, and that's really where a lot of the hard work is done. Sunday tends to be a little bit more ball focused, because we're that's a Sunday morning training, so that we've actually got good daylight. We want to make use of it. So today we were on an AstroTurf pitch down at Maynooth University. Again, we're able, I suppose, to be much more focused on technique and tactics, as opposed to just flogging lads. That being said, they still ran the arse off us anyway.
That's pre-season.
But that's pre-season, yeah.
For people listening, what is an endurance circuit, and how did they bring you so close to getting sick?
Yeah, so I'm going to put a little bit of blame on the Super Bowl as well. So it was the Monday after the Super Bowl, and as Sean alluded to last week, sadly the result did not go the 49ers way, so that was a little bit of a depressing Monday morning going into work. But the session was basically broken into three sections. So the idea being that we'd work for 21 minutes, and then so 7 minutes per section, right? And within each section there was 3 exercises. You do each exercise, do 10 reps of each exercise continuously, so for the full 7 minutes without rest. So let's say in section 1 there was box squats, there was some hurdle jumps, and there was a kind of a resistance band fly, so kind of basically a pec fly.
Okay.
So you do each exercise 10 times and keep going for the full 7 minutes as quickly as you could, and the idea was to do as many rounds as possible. So 7 minutes on, 2 minutes off. The next section then was box jumps, medicine ball slams and press ups, again 10, 10, 10, and keep going as long as possible for the 7 minutes, to do as many rounds as possible. And then the final circuit then was burpees, mountain climbers, and hand to heel touches from a press position. So it's all kind of core focus then, and cardio. And again, 7 minutes.
If you're in a press-up position, you got to reach your hand back towards your foot, push your hips up in the air, opposite hand towards the heel, towards your toe.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
so it's nasty.
You're not bending the other way as if you're one from The Exorcist.
under your body, not over your back. Yeah.
Eric just Eric just realised what was going on there.
Penny dropped there. I was like, what is this?
That sounds. I mean. That sounds
and look, very, very tough going. I suppose the idea is that we're building a base of fitness that, come September, we'll know that we can still perform for fatigue, and that's a lot of what we do in pre-season. Is that even when we finish our long runs, on a Thursday night, we're straight into twos and pucking a ball. So your rest period starts off with you trying to do something hurling focused.
Yeah.
When you're fatigued, so everything is conditioned towards. Being in a match situation, a couple of points down, 3 minutes to go, what have you got left in you? Because
in most sports, the most mistakes are made in the last 15 minutes of the game. Exactly. So that's what that's going towards. So it's mad that the four of us, there's so many different philosophies and things thrown out at people to make their own mind up on what they want to do, because your training is a lot of it is bring you to fatigue as quick as possible. whereas Eric is complete opposite in terms of heart rate training, slowing it down. I can imagine there's not many burpees in your program.
No, absolutely not. No, like that, maybe it's the influence of my previous goals. I do try to get into the gym, but for me it's just to strengthen muscles. So a lot of the time I'm doing single leg squats for the legs. I do it on a stability board to strengthen the ankles and legs, kind of like conditioning the body for what it's about to go through, and make sure to try and, my knees were kind of sore after the last marathon, so trying to prevent that from happening again and see how I go. And I've been using some of the doTERRA oils and creams and stuff, and like, we don't get paid for any of this. We're doing it for fun, and we're trying to show people what is out there. And that is one of the things I've noticed a massive difference with using those creams before and after. One, it's like a heater upper and a cooler downer, and my knees have been feeling really good even on the long ones, and I'm nervous because I'm like, oh, they better not go. But for me, like, back to the question, yeah, I try to avoid that high intensity. I get there twice a week, and some of the posts you see in zone 4 and how fast I have to run to get there, and then how quickly then it decreases in terms of the pace required to be there. So you see how your energy dissipates as the training session goes.
When you get to zone 4, are you near a point of getting sick?
That is at that stage where you are pushing. Yeah, when you start seeing zone 4 pushing into zone 5, you've got, from my experience, when I was inexperienced at it, my very first run, I went and did a half marathon. No, I was able to run, but from 10 minutes in at a 5-minute kilometre pace, my heart was in zone 5.
So what's, just in terms of kind of the percentage of your max heart rate, what's zone 4 versus
so my
zone
heart rate max, I think around 210 thereabouts, but it's I should be in the 190 is where, like, I'm in the zone 5. Right. So above 176. My heart rate for an hour and a half of my half marathon I just ran in Phoenix Park, I was in
maintaining zone.
Yeah. And that's when I start to get to know.
It's supposed to be 220 minus your age, isn't it?
Yeah, so
you're only 10,
Huh?
You're only 10.
220, but I think
get that abacus back out.
I think it's 220. Yeah, so it's about 190. Thereabouts. Yeah. So sorry, I started at you asked my max, and I was like, is it like 210 or so? But yeah, it's about 190. So I was at 196, I think, for the majority of that. So I was above what my max should have been. And once I got through an hour and a half, my body just started to shut down on me. I started to get dizzy. I was struggling to see. I was struggling through everything. And that's the intensity level I'd imagine, if you look at your heart rate, max heart rates, that you're probably reaching in the hurling. And when you're going for a max sprint for a ball, you're not thinking about it. But I imagine when you're on a long run and you're in that intensity, all you can do is think about how much you're suffering. When there's a ball involved, I can imagine you're not really thinking about it too much.
No, let's put it into a match situation. Once I suppose there's a ball coming towards you, everything just stops. And I find it slows down a little bit, but at the same time, when you go back and look at the stats, I mean, you can obviously see that, look for that point in time when you can pinpoint, okay, well, that was the point where I was picking a ball up, I was breaking a tackle, I was looking to pick out a man with a pass. Yeah, absolutely, your heart rate is spiking because you're working with such an intensity. And that's why I suppose it's completely different to when you flip it to marathon running, because obviously you're conscious about being able to work to a goal and obviously push yourself, but at the same time you're looking to maintain a level of intensity over a lengthier period of time. It's very, very different to play 60 minutes of a match than it is to run for 3.5-4 hours.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because there was different trains of thought and stuff, and coming from a personal training background, I feel there are some trainers out there that their goal will be to make the client get sick. I'd be like, oh, I put you through your pace, it's a good workout. Now it's different, you've got a group of hurling lads and you're training for that fatigue level for a reason, and they have their own philosophy and stuff, and I don't know what the coach is exactly thinking on that, but I'm sure they have a good reason to go with that. But just, if you're listening to this and you're going for your gym sessions or you're going for your runs, whatever it is, the goal shouldn't be to train to get sick. There should be, you should always train hard, but there should always be that point where you don't need to judge a great workout by how sore you are the next day or how much you want to puke, because that's not sustainable. I mean, you go 4 hard sessions a week, you're puking every single one of them. You're not going to keep doing it, and it's no good.
Just to be clear, I've never puked a session, right? Let's be really clear there.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I know what you mean, getting close to that stage and push yourself to intensity, and that's good. But just in case someone's listening, they're going, well, I better start pushing myself harder to get sick. You don't need to do that to get results, but still, to keep, you know, push you. Everyone has different intensity levels and how far to get to.
Yeah, look, I mean, what I would say about that session, just to clarify, I mean, I say I felt like getting sick. To be fair, right, I was coming off the back of, you know, having been up all night watching the Super Bowl. I hadn't eaten a whole lot that day. I'd eaten a burrito at about 5 o'clock just to try and get some dinner into me, because I had a busy day in work. I wasn't well prepared for it. And also, I mean, in those kind of situations whereby you're against the clock, it's very kind of self-motivated, because even though you're in a team environment there, you're the one doing the exercises. So I'd always really push myself, and I wasn't probably best prepared for it. I'll be much better prepared tomorrow. But it was a good session. I mean, you know, I think, you know, we all built up all worked up a real sweat, like, you know, more, and that's more important. And certainly even coming off the field in our pitch sessions, you know, no one feels like everything hurts. You know, we'll have some muscle soreness, and certainly, you know, I've experienced that. You know, but at the same time, we're working towards, you know, being able to perform under fatigue, and not working to get sick.
Awesome. We spoke about last week as well, like, you're doing this to enjoy it, and the more you feel, like we were saying to Aaron, you know, Aaron pushed himself to maximum, probably that zone 5 I was talking about, without knowing it. You were in that stage where you were going at your maximum, and your body was like, what is going on? That's not an enjoyable experience. That time I did that half marathon, I wasn't right for a day or two afterwards. Genuinely, my body was just not happy with me. So for me, and like you said, I don't go into the hurling kind of that short sharp unless I'm doing my interval training. But even in the intervals, staying in zone 4, you're working hard, you're sweating hard. Probably wouldn't have a conversation with you if we were going for a run together. You're just not able. But it's on that limits where I can do it for a sustained period of time, be happy that I've done a really hard workout, and I'll be recovered within 30 minutes of the training session. And then I have the will and the want to go again tomorrow.
And you know, I'd like, even just to cover off, because I know both yourself and Aaron kind of mentioned that you don't really like running at times, and it's funny because I always felt like that. Over the last 4 or 5 weeks, I'm really starting to enjoy it. For me, it's almost become that little bit of almost like therapy. And like I said, there's a couple of nights where I've had a, you know, rough day in work, or a lot of my mind or whatever, and I just said, right, I need to get a run in. You know, I'd go out, and even without thinking it, all of a sudden I'd be, God, you know, after running 5k there, you know. And so for me, it's funny because I used to love the gym and hate the running. That's slowly starting to shift now. I think that, you know, even my hurling as well, you know, when you're performing well and you have a good base of fitness, and, you know, you recover a little bit quicker, and things become easier long term, even though at the time they're quite hard. Like, there's not a session where I don't think at one point in time I'm on my hands and knees, or I'm breathing heavily, you know. But you're starting to enjoy it more, and you enjoy that process, because ultimately what we're working towards is, you know, is Madrid in whatever it is, 11 weeks. You know, that's the end goal. I think that, you know, every night we get out on the road, or every night we do a session, regardless of what it is, we're working towards that, and can get to a point where, you know, we're going to be able to cross the finish line and know that we did everything possible for it.
100%. We will wrap up the podcast there, and we'll just say that when you are training or doing exercise or running, whatever it is, it shouldn't be considered a form of punishment for having a good night the night before, or weddings last week, like Eric over here having different kind of session. It should, if you look at it as punishment for doing something, you're not going to be able to sustain it long term. You're going to have that bad mindset, which is mad, because a lot of this stuff we keep going back to ends up being mindset as well as the physical side to it as well. So anything else for the lads to add to this week's episode? On that note, thank you once again for listening to this week's episode of the Any Given Runday podcast. Thank you for sharing it on your Instagram stories and on social media as well. And that's it from the four of us. Take care.